Buddhaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi. Dhammaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi. Saṅghaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi. Dutiyampi buddhaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi. Dutiyampi dhammaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi. Dutiyampi saṅghaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi. Tatiyampi buddhaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi. Tatiyampi dhammaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi. Tatiyampi saṅghaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi. Pāṇātipātā vēramaṇī. Sikkhapadaṃ samādhiyāmi. Adinādānā vēramaṇī. Sikkhapadaṃ samādhiyāmi. Abrahmacharya vēramaṇī. Sikkhapadaṃ samādhiyāmi. Musāvādā vēramaṇī. Sikkhapadaṃ samādhiyāmi. Surāmēraya majja pamādaṭṭhānā vēramaṇī. Sikkhapadaṃ samādhiyāmi. Nacca gīta vādita visūka dassana. Mālā gandha vilepana. Dhārana mandana. Vibhūsanaṭṭhānā vēramaṇī. Sikkhapadaṃ samādhiyāmi. Vikāla bhojanā vēramaṇī. Sikkhapadaṃ samādhiyāmi. Uccāsayana mahāsayanā vēramaṇī. Sikkhapadaṃ samādhiyāmi. Imāni atthanga sīlāni samādhiyāmi. Imāni atthanga sīlāni samādhiyāmi. Imāni atthanga sīlāni samādhiyāmi. In case some of you are observing the precepts but still did not understand Pali, and please repeat after me the precepts in English. I undertake to observe the rule of abstinence from taking life. I undertake to observe the rule of abstinence from taking what is not given. I undertake to observe the rule of abstinence from unchastity. I undertake to observe the rule of abstinence from false speech. I undertake to observe the rule of abstinence from intoxicants which cause a careless frame of mind. I undertake to observe the rule of abstinence from taking food at the wrong time. I undertake to observe the rule of abstinence from dancing, music, visiting shows, flowers, makeup, the wearing of ornaments and decorations. I undertake to observe the rule of abstinence from a tall, high sleeping place. I observe these 8 precepts. I observe these 8 precepts. I observe these 8 precepts. Thank you. Now let's start our meditation. As usual, at the beginning, let's remind ourselves that universal reminder of self-reliance, universal aspiration of self-reliance. A bird sitting on a tree is never afraid of the branch breaking because its trust is not on the branch, but on its own wings. The same way, even if the world is shaky and shattering and in turmoil, we don't have to worry about that as long as we believe in ourselves, trust ourselves, rely on ourselves. We need to be like a bird that is relying on its feathers, on its wings, even as the branch it is sitting on is breaking. And that is the aspiration of the universal aspiration of self-reliance. With that aspiration, we will now start our mindfulness session. Sit in a comfortable position with your back upright. It is better if you don't lean against the chair or the wall wherever you are sitting. And with your shoulders dropped, with your chest open, feeling firm in your mind and in your body. We will now slowly close our eyes as the bell goes on one more time. And we are leaving our hands on our lap. As we are now closing our eyes to the external world, we will also close our mind to the external world. In so doing, we must now start disconnecting ourselves from our immediate surroundings. And by bringing our awareness, our attention to our nostrils and maintaining our attention around our nostrils. And let's take a longer, deeper breath. Hold onto it and breathe out. And switch back to our normal breath, normal involuntary breath. You come with different levels of experience in meditation practice. Some of you are some of you have experience in Vipassana. Some have experience in Samatha. Regardless of which level of experience you have, it's always good to start with the deep breath. That's why we did. And as we continue, despite the fact that we have lots of experience in meditation, we may easily get distracted by things that arise in our mind and by the things that occur in our immediate surroundings. Things that occur in our mind are called internal distractions. And the things that arise in our immediate surroundings are called external distractions. Any feeling, any thought, any sensation, any memory, any tendency of the mind that is other than our focus on breath is a distraction. No matter how good such distractions are, given the fact that we are supposed to focus only on breath, even a good feeling is considered a distraction. And when it comes to external distractions, it is like any noise, any sound that occurs in your immediate surroundings, or maybe from a distance, such as doors opening, people talking, telephones ringing, the air conditioner or the fan running, the traffic moving on the street nearby, aeroplanes flying over if you live under a flight path, even your own heartbeat. could be a distraction, an external distraction. And as those distractions occur, we must not get afflicted with them. We must not follow them, must not qualify them, run after them, but simply observe them as they occur, as they come and go. And at the same time, we may happen to encounter mental pains, that is called mental pains that are called domanasas in Pali, or bodily pains that are called dukkhas in Pali. As domanasas and dukkhas occur, as mental or emotional pains and or bodily pains occur, we must not get afflicted with them. Instead, we must be happy that we are being given an ample opportunity to trust ourselves, to test our self-trust, to test our self-reliance, to test our self-confidence. Be happy when such pains occur, and tell yourself that not only joy that is impermanent, pain is impermanent too. Pain is impermanent too. People in general maintain that only pains are impermanent. Sorry, only joy is impermanent. Pain is impermanent too. Pain is as impermanent as joy. And when such pains occur in your mind, in your body, simply disregard them, but be happy that everything in the world, where everything is subject to change, even the world itself, I'm not an exceptional case. My body goes through change, my mind goes through change, my existence goes through change, everything goes through change. And that is impermanent. And when you have that realistic approach to your own pains, you are entering the vipassana level. So make sure that you touch on vipassana whenever pains occur and start bothering you. As the bell goes on one more time, we will start our meditation in silence. No more wordings until the end. Open your eyes, please, and stretch out. Thank you for meditating with us today. And you might have noticed from our announcement that was circulated via email, WhatsApp, and on the Facebook Messenger that today's topic is life as a bubble. But actually, I said so because the topic is too big. It's a whole phrase that describes today's topic. If I go through the whole phrase, seeing the world of selfhood as a bubble or as a mirage, as the strategy to avoid being seen by the king of death, Machu Raja. So today's brief Dhamma talk is based on the Dhammapada verse number 170. First of all, let me go through the Pali text. You don't have to worry about the Pali text. In case some of you still want the whole Pali text, the verse in Pali, I can text it to you. Yatha ubbulakang passe, yatha passe marichikang, evang lokang avekkantang, Machuraja na passati. Repeat. Yatha bubbulakang passe, yatha passe marichikang, evang lokang avekkantang, Machuraja na passati. Translated, if a man looks at the world in the same way as one looks at a bubble or a mirage, the king of death will not find him. Now, so this is about the world being looked at in light of a bubble or in light of a mirage. So even though this is a very concise, very brief statement by the Buddha, it explains a lot. It requires lots of description. Now, in this verse, according to this Dhammapada verse number 170, so there's a way, there's a strategy you can avoid being seen by what is called king of death, Machu Raja. Now, all religions talk about death as not something pleasant. According to religion, according to normal, universal human perception, death is the scariest thing. That is the most negative thing that one could encounter. But according to the Buddhist teaching of rebirth, Punabhava, and Paticca the teaching on the interdependent origination, and Samsara, the teaching on Samsara, death is the last moment of one particular lifetime. Upon death, we come back in a different life form. However, death is considered an unpleasant thing even in Buddhism, because we have to go through death repeatedly. That is why death is unpleasant. If we die only once, then so it should be okay then. But that's not the case. We come back to samsara in different life forms. And there's no guarantee that we come back to samsara only as a human being or as a divine being. Based on our karmic qualifications, we may even come back in a different life form other than the human form and the divine form. Could be an animal form as well. So now death is considered, see the Buddha's metaphorical description of death. Death is the last moment of life, our life. But here the death is considered, explained as a king, Even in Greek, Roman literature, in Western and in religion, whether Western or Eastern, in animism, in almost every religious belief, death is considered a king. Hence, king of Machu Raja, king of death. Machu means death. King is Raja, king of death. Why Buddha calls death a king is because of the control death has over us. We are unable to avoid the control the death has on our life. That is why we have to die for sure one day. So in terms of the control of death over our life, the death has the control death has over our life. The death is called a Raja or king, king of death, Machu Raja. There's only one way to avoid Machu Raja's attention, or the attention of the king of death, and that is the strategy or the kusala, 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 or the strategy is when we look at the world, just like we observe in light of the nature of a bubble or a mirage. In our previous dialogues, we discussed life being like a bubble or a mirage based on different teachings different teachings of the Buddha elsewhere. So at this point, and you are familiar with the Pali terms for bubble and mirage. Bubbulakang. Bubbulaka is bubble. Bubbula is bubble. Bubbulaka, so it gives a slightly different meaning. Ka means smaller, like a small bubble. Bubble or a small bubble. Bubbulaka. Bubbula or bubbulaka. BBULAKA. Bubbulaka. And that is bubble. And mirage, the part for which the Pali word is marichi, Marici, marichi. Remember, according to the Pena Sutra that we discussed on a number of occasions in the past, we come across a statement made by the Buddha as to the nature of perception being a mirage. Marichi kupama sanya. Perception is a mirage. So now, and that's the point that we are going to make here. And what Buddha means by the world. So here, and he's talking about a kind of world, loka. The world is not the physical world or the natural world or the earth or any other planet here. The world here means our own selfhood. And selfhood is made of 5 aggregates, as you know. Khandhas, Khandhas, khandhas. 5 khandhas. They're called Panchakhandha, the 5 aggregates. In the past, we did discuss the 5 skandhas, 5 aggregates at length on numerous occasions, so that we don't need an explanation of the 5 khandhas. However, let me list the 5 skandhas, 5 aggregates that together form or create what is called selfhood. Rupa, R-U-P-A, Rupa, that is the physical body. and that is the corporeality of our selfhood, that the physical part of our selfhood. And then the last four are mental part of the selfhood, psychological part of the selfhood. That is the psychology. First part is the corporeality. The last four are the psychology. So Vedana, 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 that is feeling or sensation. And Sanya, S-A-N, with the diacritic mark tilde on top. Again, N with the diacritic mark tilde on top. A, long A, Sanya. S-A-N-N-A, Sanya, which is perception in Pali, in English. Then Sankhara, mental coefficients or accumulations. And Vijnana, consciousness. Rupa, that is the physical body. And then Vedana is sensation. And that is part of our psychology that governs our sensations or feelings. And Sanya or perception is part of our psychology that governs our ability to perceive, our ability to observe and perceive and to gather data from the external world through our sense faculties. Sense faculties, as you know in Pali, is called indriyas. And whatever grasped, whatever pursued by our indriyas or sense faculties are called arammanas, and you are familiar with that word, sense objects. So Sanya is part of our psychology, part of our selfhood that governs our ability to gather, to accumulate data, to perceive, the ability to perceive the world, to see the world through our sense faculties. And Sankhara is a part of our psychology that is an area of our psychology that is able to deposit, to harbor, to accumulate our sankharas or the karma, our data. The data are threefold: karmic data, memory, and habits. So anyway, we hardly mention habits and memory. Memory and habits are part of our karmic accumulations. So whenever you mean karma, accumulation of karma, it also means accumulation of its so the other two things that are inseparably interconnected with karma, that is to say memory and habits. So, and that is sankhara. Sankhara is again an area for psychology that governs the accumulation of data that we gather from our sense faculties. Sanya helps us for that. And the last part of our aggregate skandha is vijnana. Vijnana is the overall mind, and it is at this point, vijnana is not the general mind, but the mind in terms of its role as an area that is able to make assumptions and conclusions. So in general, those are the five aggregates, five skandhas: rupa, physical body; vedana, sensations or feelings; sanya, perception; sankhara, mental accumulations, coefficients, mental and then vijnana, consciousness. So these five things together we call selfhood. And as soon, according to Buddha's deconstructive approach, Buddha's non-subjective approach to selfhood and the world, instead of seeing the world as a single entity intact, and Buddha would encourage us to see our selfhood and anything in the world as conditionally arising, conditionally made. Anything could be a proliferation or proliferation of few things together. And then we believe we see our selfhood as one single entity anyway, because of our natural, inborn, innate, subjective approach to ourselves. And then non-subjective approach is purposely adopted. Unless that approach is purposely adopted, we would continue to use our typical subjective approach to our existence, our life, and that is problematic. So, and that is problematic. And then consciously or subconsciously, we happen to believe, we do believe in the sense of, we do maintain a sense of permanence with regard to our life, our existence, our selfhood, and the world as well. So that is why in this stanza, in this Dhammapada verse, Buddha encourages us to look at the world. The world at this point is not the physical external world, but the very world that we maintain in our perception. In other words, that is ourselves in a nutshell. Our own selfhood is a world. Remember in another discussion that we had weeks ago, we happened to say that Buddha calls this 1 fathom tall or long physical body, and Buddha declares the world within this 1 fathom tall or long physical body. And then he said the world is within this body, and its origin is within, and the way to end that world is within, and the path to end this traumatizing, this agonizing existence of this world also within. So, and then while Buddha talks about different stars and planets and world systems, chakravatas or galaxies, and given the purpose of the rise of a Buddha in the world, it is not the external world or the physical world or the physical universe that we are supposed to explore. And it's not the space travel, but travel within that we are encouraged to do by the Buddha. And so our world, our own selfhood, that is made of the 5 skandhas, 5 aggregates, that is called the world here. And then we need to, why Buddha wants us to look at our life, our selfhood, the world of selfhood, in light of a bubble, bubbulaka, or in light of a mirage, marichi, is that when we look at our selfhood, the world of selfhood, in light of a bubble or a mirage, we can very easily see the reality that the world, our selfhood, has no permanent essence. According to the conventional, remember, I'm not confusing you. Please go back to our previous sessions on the 2 levels of truth, sammuti satcha, or the I think recently we had one session on the 2 levels of reality, and based on the 2 levels of truth or reality, Buddha talks about 2 kinds of teachings. His teachings based on the conventional reality or the conventional truth, and his teachings based on the absolute reality or the ultimate truth. And according to the ultimate truth, which we find it difficult to grasp, nothing really exists. So that, but according to the conventional reality-based teachings, everything does exist. I am here. there are things that are mine, and you are there, you have your own things, and we are friends, we live, we do feel ourselves, we are beings, we are here, we travel through samsara. And then so even if we do exist, but our existence is relative, and then myself is not one single permanent entity, and then my existence is relative to 5 different things, 5 khandhas or aggregates. When those conditions fall apart, when those conditions disintegrate from each other, and that comes to me, and then before that I go through a slow process that is called aging. As aging continues, I slowly but steadily disintegrate, and disintegration continues, and at a certain point there's this total disintegration between of our the consciousness from the physical body. At that point death occurs, and our existence is relative. When the relativity falls apart, we don't exist anymore. Everything is relative, and Buddha encourages us to look at. And also, please go back to the session on the recording on, and listen to the recording on self and no self that we had. Remember, atta and anatta. Please go back and listen to both sessions. The session on self and no self, and the session on the 5 aggregates, in case you have forgotten the facts. Because in such a short Dhamma talk, it's not advisable to repeat everything all over again, because it brings, and it can easily confuse you. So that being said, a bubble is something that is created instantaneously, and it doesn't last that long. A bubble breaks very soon. And so as a mirage, a bubble is when it rains, when the water hits the grounds, and it creates bubbles, and so it's relative. The bubble is a relative reality, and then so is the mirage. Mirage is when the hot sun, when the extreme heat of the sun so hits the ground, and so that so the heat reflects from the ground, and then as a result we see a mirage. The mirage is fake water. Mirage is true in a way, because we actually see it is visible to our naked eyes, but and Buddha encourages us to see our selfhood as a mirage, in terms of the reality that we easily get deluded by the things that we see. In terms of a bubble, our selfhood can break any moment. In terms of mirage, we can easily get deluded any moment, any time. Just like the deer in the hot sun, hit by a famine or a drought, see the mirage at a distance, and they are mistaken. They assume that it is the water at a distance. They see at a distance, and they run to the point where they see the water. By the time they reach the place, and then there's no water there. And again, when they look around, they see the mirage or the water at a distance again. Again, they start running until they get tired. They may even collapse. They may even pass out of their urge to quench their thirst. Likewise, it happens to us as well when we run after things, and we easily get tired until we hit the moment in which death is right there to welcome us. And only then do we understand that we have kept running after a mirage, and we didn't have time to avoid the sight, avoid being seen by Machuraja, or king of death. So the strategy here is that we prepare ourselves. We prepare ourselves. We understand the changing or the impermanent nature of our existence. And by the way, Buddha's teaching is not a pessimism, nor is it an optimism, but it is a realism. The Buddha's teaching is neither a pessimism nor an optimism, but a realism. Simply because, as we learned from our previous sessions, simply because we are not supposed to be pessimistic, we are encouraged to be optimistic. But optimism can be a killer. It can be as dangerous as pessimism. But it is advisable to be optimistic so that we can avoid pessimism. But in reality, actually, what we are supposed to do is we need to adopt a realistic approach to our life. So optimism is good because we are not supposed to be pessimistic. But again, optimism can be a killer as well, because it can put you in the game of pretense when you're too optimistic. So too much of optimism takes you to a game of pretense. We can pretend to be normal when in fact our life is at risk, so that we need to be cautious, we need to be mindful. So we need to be realistic, and to be realistic means to, while you enjoy your life, at the same time you have to keep yourself prepared for the worst case, prepare for the worst in your life. And then while you know that you have a life that you need to struggle for survival, at the same time you need to look at your life, your existence, as a bubble, because a bubble is beautiful, but it can break any moment. And then when you run after, you need to set higher limits in your life. You need to achieve lots of things in your life. You are not supposed to give up your hopes, but at the same time you need to see the speed at which you are supposed to go. You need to see the pace that you have to move. You need to see the speed at which you are supposed to run, not to be in a marathon, not to be so that you need to so be cautious and to move forward steadily. And otherwise you will very easily get tired, just like a bunch of deer running after a mirage. So that when you approach this as strategy, by the time we happen to leave this one day, we don't have to be fearful of death. Let the death take us. We are not worried then. Why? We had prepared ourselves to face so the last negative thing in our life. In fact, when you prepare yourself to face death, that is one thing that I have personally learned. That can even be something fascinating, because you are not scared of leaving this world. You are ready to leave this world. You are leaving every connection, every relationship that most probably brought you more suffering, more agony, more unsatisfactoriness than joy behind. You are leaving all that behind and leaving. That's what we learn from today's Dhamma Talk, which is based on the Dhammapada verse number 170. Once again, if I go through the whole phrase that I use to describe the topic, seeing the world of selfhood as a bubble or as a mirage, is as the strategy to avoid being seen by the king of death, Machuraja. Let's look at our life as a bubble. Let's look at our life as a mirage. And while you achieve your goals in your conventional life, at the same time, let's keep ourselves prepared for the worst thing in our life. When the worst things occur, so we would be able to pull ourselves through those disasters. Why? Because we knew in advance that those worst things would occur for sure, or would happen to us. Thank you. Any questions, please? If not, let's share the merits with the world, with all living beings. May all living beings be well, happy, and peaceful. May the world soon be free from the coronavirus pandemic. May you all, together with your family members, be well, happy, and peaceful, and safe. So let's share merits with all devas, all sentient beings. Ittavata mehi sampatang punya sampadang sabbe deva anumodantu sabbe bhuta anumodantu sabbe satta anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Shall we share the merits with all our departed friends and relatives, as well as with those who perish, those who lost their lives to the coronavirus pandemic all over the world. Idang wo nyati nang hotu sukita hontu nyatayo. Idang wo nyati nang hotu sukita hontu nyatayo. Idang wo nyati nang hotu sukita hontu nyatayo. And then may you all be well, happy, and peaceful, and enjoy the rest of the evening. And I wish you a peaceful night. See you next Friday. Buddha Saranai. Buddha bless you all.